Hi everyone, good to see you all. I see a lot of people still coming into the room, but I wanted to make sure I hopped on time to share a few things with you all to make sure that this training goes smoothly. So we had really good luck last time, so fingers crossed. I know you all are really eager to get this information. But as you're coming in, just introduce yourself so you can make sure that you can use the chat. Everything looks good on that on your end. If you don't see the chat and you're on a mobile device, make sure you install the YouTube app. So we always use YouTube because it can handle a lot of people, and we expect a lot of people to be coming in today. So if you do not see the chat, it's likely a mobile issue. If you bring up the app, you should be able to access this no problem. And then if you're on web, you should see the chat without an issue. So definitely drop what state you're joining from, what you teach. Let us know who's here. I'll try to tailor some things depending on what grade levels we have. And then if you have any issues during the training with technology, the best thing to do is to just refresh your page. A lot of times just backing completely out and logging back in, even on a different device, can help as well. If it's something where it's us and it's our issue, I'll make sure that I send an email and text you all in a panic to help you get back on. But hopefully we're all good on my end, and any little glitches that you have can be fixed by logging back in again. So welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so excited. We just have a bunch more people come in. So glad that you're all here. We're going to get straight into it. I don't want to waste any time. I see a lot of awesome introductions here. So I will introduce myself in a moment as well, and can't wait to talk to you all and collaborate in the chat. So we know there's nothing called the science of writing like the science of reading, but I felt like this was an important title for this training because it's so important to remember writing as a part of our literacy block. And it's just as important to realize that we've made some missteps when it comes to teaching writing because of misinformation, whether it's from certain trainings that we've received or just lackluster curriculum that hasn't provided what we needed for writing instruction. So I might challenge your beliefs a little bit. So I apologize if there is something that goes against training you've had in your past, but I have a feeling that you're going to be nodding your head quite a bit because this is going to make so much sense for you and your students. If you're interested in updating your instructional practices, you want to follow the science of reading, or you have questions about how writing fits into the science of reading at any grade level, then this is definitely the training for you. If your students struggle with basic writing skills, if you're constantly having to help fix spelling problems, grammar problems, organization, your students can't or won't write for long periods of time, then this is definitely the training for you. And it's possible that it's actually probable that you don't have the time, training, or resources to provide the quality writing instruction that you're looking to. So I'm happy to help you be able to do this with the time that you have. So my name is April Smith. I'm the author of Simplify Your Writing Instruction. I started working with teachers in writing instruction as a district writing coach in 2016. And since then, I've been working with a lot of schools across in different countries, but across the United States. We have a lot of schools that I work with to help put quality resources and training into teachers' hands. So I'm really glad that you're here trusting me with your time, and I appreciate it so much. Don't forget to stay until the end. On the last slide, which is the Q&A slide, I'll share the link for your course certificate as well as a full free unit for your grade level. We have kinder through 8th grade that meets the research that we're going to discuss. So let's start by evaluating 3 classrooms. I really want to be able to look at some of the elements that we have included in classrooms right now and identify which ones are really following the research and which ones are actually providing quality instruction versus which ones we can find improvement on. So this first classroom uses a workshop model, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but in this case, the students are working at their own pace. So some kids are behind, some are on the same day, some are ahead. It prioritizes student voice and choice over direct and explicit instruction. So it's very open-ended. It makes the students the teachers. It introduces skills in isolation. Classroom 2 incorporates writing into the other subject areas by having students write about that subject instead of having direct, explicit instruction. It teaches grammar through short practice activities outside the context of a writing piece. And it walks students through the writing process in a week, just trying to fit things in when they have time. Classroom 3 teaches writing in a way that's explicit and systematic. It uses data to pinpoint learning gaps and make modifications to lessons. And it makes connections between reading, writing, and other subject areas, as well as balancing that student voice and choice with actual teacher direction and scaffolding. So which classroom do you think best follows the research? Put it in the chat now. Okay, let's break these down because there are elements that you may have seen in these classrooms that you can very much relate to. I have had all 3 of these classrooms at different points in my teaching career. This first one is one we commonly see with certain curriculum that really focuses on workshop, but the students have so much voice and choice that they often get overwhelmed or they're missing that direct explicit instruction. So they're having a hard time really improving their skills and they're just really using the skills that they have. It also has skills in isolation, so maybe the grammar is taught outside of writing, or skills like writing skills are not actually being directly used right after they're taught because the kids are on different parts of their writing pieces. Classroom 2 is really what I refer to as the struggling writing teacher, and I've been this one as well. This is where you don't have the time or materials, and so you're really just trying to do it whenever you can. So you're trying to fit it in. You're trying to have kids write during the other subject areas. When you do have time for an actual writing piece, you don't have a lot of instructional time, and you're trying to cram it all into 1 week. And this is a very frustrating place to be. I know this personally because the output that students give really does not show growth. It's because everything is so rushed. Classroom number 3 is where we want to be. Of course, easier said than done. But this is where we are doing explicit and systematic lessons. They don't have to be long lessons. They just have to be very consistent lessons where we're really breaking things down into manageable pieces for our kids. They use data to pinpoint learning gaps and make modifications to the lessons. So any curriculum that has every teacher say and do the exact same thing for all of their students is not going to work well because we have so many students with writing gaps. So they have gaps in skills. So this is where I always tell, especially when I work with administrators, I always tell them there should never be one size fits all curriculum. We want to give teachers something that follows the research and then train teachers how to make modifications to meet the needs of their students and how to collect data that's actually meaningful. So that's what we're really looking for. When I train administrators on how to look for quality curriculum, we need to be looking for that flexibility. And then we balance student voice and choice with teacher direction, and we make connections between writing and the other subject areas. Okay, tell me what you've noticed about your students' writing abilities in the last 5 years. I always ask this question because I'm curious to see if there's any patterns that people have noticed. I know that our students are definitely struggling, but what are they struggling with right now? Okay, I see a lot of people saying their students are not motivated to write. They can't write for an extended period of time. I have a couple people talking about spelling and grammar, handwriting. Yes, these are common problems. You are not alone. Okay, let's talk about why this is. Now, I don't want to say that writing is always neglected in literacy instruction. There are many schools and there are many teachers who are able to balance it properly. But because of the focus on reading through science of reading, which is absolutely essential, I'm worried that we're going to take the focus off writing even more. So it's really important that in addition to making sure that we're having best practices with reading, that we're doing the same with writing and making sure that it gets its own direct systematic instruction time that we can relate to the reading instead of just having it be a part that's left behind. So the research says, similarly to reading, that structured literacy approach is best. And similar to reading, we want direct, systematic instruction. And that's how our students are going to grow as writers. Now, don't worry, that doesn't mean that they're not going to get that voice and choice. They're not going to be able to learn their own style. You're not going to get formulaic writing pieces. We just have to make sure that when we are teaching them the elements of writing and we're doing the process, that we are making sure that they have every single skill modeled for them so that they're able to feel like confident when they're outputting that piece in there with their own creative spin. So we have 5 main skills that we're going to talk about, or 5 elements that we're going to talk about that we see time and time again in the research about writing instruction, these are the ones that we find have the most success in studies. So systematic explicit instruction, using graphic organizers, and there's a caveat there because what graphic organizer you use matters. Integration with reading, and we're going to talk about the misunderstanding we have with that, because a lot of times we think that means that we're only writing about reading, and it doesn't. We are not giving writing its time. So we'll talk more about that when we get to that section. Modeling and exemplar usage, and consistent and timely feedback. So why does systematic explicit instruction work? Well, our students are not natural writers, just like they're not natural readers. That means that our students can definitely pick up some parts of writing, but a lot of our students cannot learn without that direct instruction. So it's really important that we keep in mind when we're thinking about science of reading that the same concepts are going to really apply to writing, which is that we need to make sure we are teaching them how to write in a systematic way. Each systematic explicit lesson should focus on just one key skill. We don't want to overwhelm them. It should model how to use the skill in writing. We want to make sure we're using auditory, visual, and kinesthetic elements. So our lesson should be very engaging, not lecture style, but actively engaging our students. We want students to apply the skill in their own work immediately after, so that connection is there. We have to make sure, if we want clarity for our writing process, that we are breaking things into really manageable pieces. So any tool or concept you want them to use must be modeled. So if you want students to be looking for fragments and run-ons in their writing and then fixing them, you have to model that within your writing piece. If you want students to use a graphic organizer, you have to model it. Everything needs to be taught explicitly so that students know how to do it. There should not be any guessing. Okay, so what does this look like breaking it into manageable pieces? Well, here's an example for kindergarten. Now, this is a unit that's towards the end of the year. This is an opinion unit. And so in kindergarten, we are really focusing the first part of the year on developmental skills like pencil grip. We're starting to learn letter formation as they learn the letter sounds. We're connecting to all those phonics skills, and we are showing them how to start illustrating and labeling eventually when they have the encoding skills to do so. But then as we get into the second part of the year, we really are moving into writing sentences. Even towards quarter 2, we're starting to do that heavily scaffolded. So this might look like a lot, and you might be thinking, wow, this is a lot of sentences, but you have to keep in mind that this is broken down into really small chunks, and each part is heavily scaffolded by the teacher, whether it's using a sentence frame or doing a lot of it together. So for this example, we're seeing that they're starting with brainstorming and planning. So they're talking about what opinions are, they're talking together as a group. This is all something that they're doing together with the teacher. And then our planning, we're breaking it down to using 3 words where we can plan out some reasons that start with either can, have, or are. So we have those split into 3 days as to not overwhelm students. And then we have our introduction. So this is where we're working on writing an introduction sentence. We are giving them a sentence starter that they're filling in. Maybe we're giving them a couple of options of a sentence starter if they are ready for that, depending on the class. And then we're moving into using the can, have, and are statements to write full sentences. And then we're splitting that up in a way where we've already pre-taught that, right? And then we're doing that quick conclusion sentence. And then we're going to revising, editing, and publishing. So this may seem like a lot for kindergartners to write, but we have to keep in mind that it's so heavily scaffolded that the amount of writing they're doing is very minimal, but they're still practicing these skills that are essential for them to have in connection with their reading skills. Now let's go up a little bit more to the beginning of upper elementary. So when we're starting to transition into 3rd grade, we're starting to really work on multi-paragraph essays. That is our goal, is to get really solid 3 paragraphs. So we're looking at talking about the elements, going into brainstorming. We split up audience and reference text because learning about audience, that's a whole lesson thing. And then looking at a reference text, this is the first time where we're really starting to focus on having a reference text for them to use in their writing. We're really just heavily scaffolding this and helping them maybe put one piece of evidence into their writing. It's really just an introduction so that they are familiar with this when they get into 4th grade. So we're really breaking it down and we're heavily supporting them. And then you can see that we have some body paragraphs split up. because we really want to focus on certain things with our kids. Now, when we see writing lessons where the writing process is split up the same for every grade or the same for every writing type, that's a red flag, because we know that there are some things that we need to teach within here. It's not just pre-writing, planning, rough draft, final draft, right? There's so much more involved. In this case, we have formatting, transitions, elaboration, and evidence. These are things that are really key in our students' writing as they get into the upper grades. Let's look at 7th grade. So we're going forward to middle school. So we're hoping that they have a lot of these elements in place, but we're still breaking things down. Research is something that's really new to 7th grade. It is something that they're going to need to use in years ahead. So we're really focusing on research, but we're taking 2 days to really teach them how to research, how to use the information. And so that's broken down there. And then we have our body paragraph split up between counterclaim and rebuttal, and focusing on respectful disagreement. So 2 very big skills. So I'd like to include some teachers' responses to using these strategies in their classroom for the first time, because I think it's important to see teachers who have taken this information, they've put it into place in their class, and they've had great results. So this is Gina. She started doing the really small bite-sized lesson, explicit lesson pieces, and it's really helped her and her students have more confidence and really be able to focus on the skill instead of just trying to get things done. So this is really, that confidence is really important with our students, and that's what we see quite a bit when we start to put these explicit lessons into place, is our students start to become more comfortable with the writing process, and they don't feel as overwhelmed. And systematic direct instruction is not just for whole group. This can be used in small group as well. Small group is something that I do a lot of training on outside of obviously of this training, but because it can be a really powerful way to help your students who are missing key skills that they need for their writing, especially if they're below grade level. So again, systematic direct instruction that you can provide for those students in small groups is very helpful. Now we find there's obviously more time for this in the upper grades during independent writing time, but in the lower grades we do see time for this during intervention time or centers. So here's how you align your classroom to this first element. First of all, have time set aside for whole group writing instruction. That's a non-negotiable. It doesn't have to be very long. 15 minutes is a good lesson time, maybe 20 in the lower grades, because in the lower grades, especially kinder and first grade, what you're doing is you're teaching for 4 to 5 minutes with your students involved, and then they're doing something very small while you're walking around and you're helping make give quick feedback and make those connections to what they just learned. So our whole group lessons will seem a lot longer in the lower grades because we're not sending them off to that independent time. We have to have the time period. It needs to be there consistently. We want to break down the writing process into simple systematic lessons. So sit down and look at what you're teaching and make sure that it's not overwhelming. If the plan is missing skills that you know your students need to be retaught, then we can add those in there as well. Okay, share in the chat, what shifts will you make to provide systematic direct writing instruction in your classroom? I know it's a challenge. I know that time is a challenge, and being able to consistently fit in writing is a challenge, especially if you're in a school that has reading and writing integrated in a way where reading has taken over. So we have to make sure, though, that just like we have our direct reading instruction time, we have the same for our writing. It could be a little bit shorter, especially in the lower grades when our phonics lessons are very, very long, but it needs to be there. It needs to be consistent. Okay, thank you all for sharing. I appreciate that. Okay, let's talk about element number 2. This is using graphic organizers. Now, this is not anything that's really new or unknown to most teachers, but it is really important to remember that graphic organizers are important in writing, and using the correct ones are going to make a big difference. So the right graphic organizer is key. This is a graphic organizer that we use for planning purposes and you see on the left, it tells them exactly what they need to have, and then on the right, it gives them sentence frames. Now, this is something that we use for English language learners, but this could be used for your struggling writers as well, or your regular class if they're struggling and they need sentence stems. You can see here that this is a very heavily scaffolded graphic organizer. So it's really important to note that you want to model any graphic organizer your students want to use. And make sure, looking at this again, make sure that your graphic organizers are not so open-ended that your students cannot figure out what to write on them. If you're used to using very simple graphic organizers where they're just doing a brain dump in a circle, or you're categorizing things on like a tree, it's important to know that the more direction or the more information you put in that graphic organizer to guide your students on what to write, the less overwhelmed they will be. So if you're pre-providing categories for like a tree organizer, that can be very helpful. My students, even my 5th and 6th graders, really struggle with coming up with categories, and we don't want our students to get stuck this early in the process. And if you're using like a brainstorming that's just a circle, you want to make sure that it's directed in there exactly what they're writing about or what they're brainstorming. And if your students get stuck on the brainstorming, you can even print out a graphic organizer that has questions in the circle so that they can answer those questions instead of just having to come up with something completely from a blank organizer. So scaffolding, so important. Okay, here's how to align your classroom. Make sure you choose graphic organizers that provide support and clear directions. Make sure they align to the direct systematic lessons, so they have a purpose there. And then model them. Model them, model them, model them. Make sure your students know how to use them. Okay, let me know, which graphic organizers do you currently use that work well, and which do your students struggle with? Okay, yes, I see someone agreeing that the open-ended organizers like the tree one, very, very hard for students to start. So yes, I have found that as well. And so it makes sense when you look at the research that the more scaffolded and direct graphic organizers are very helpful. Okay, let's talk about element number 3. This is integration with reading. So for a long time, and I do blame certain curriculum for this because this is how they included it, but we thought that reading integration with writing meant that writing should happen in the reading block. But for some reason, we thought it didn't mean that the students needed actual writing instruction. So I even remember back to when I was a student, and our textbooks for reading at the end would have a written response, and that was what we got for writing. And I think about that and I think, how did I learn how to write like that? Well, the truth of the matter is I have been a very natural reader and writer my whole life, and I've been lucky to be one of those kids, but most of our kids are not like that. So really a lot of our students are going off of these writing skills that have not really had a chance to be grown, because a lot of what we're doing is application of writing in reading. So really it's important to know that although writing instruction should be taught alongside reading because it enhances overall literacy skills, we still need to make sure that writing has a time of its own. It doesn't mean they have to be completely separated blocks, or maybe they are, but it means that the writing has to have a focus just like reading. So I know that's hard to digest because we're so limited on time, but the most important thing that you can do after this training is to make sure that writing is actually explicitly taught, no matter where it is in your day, no matter what block it's in. Okay. Now, obviously, there are so many relationships between reading and writing that we will continue to have in our classrooms, but integration does not just mean writing about reading. Okay, let's go over this step by step because I feel like I'm combating a lot of misinformation, not only from my childhood, from when I started teaching, and still today, about integration with reading. So what does integration with reading actually look like if writing still has direct explicit instruction time, if writing actually has its own time? Well, it looks like using phonics skills taught during your reading instruction to encode words. So we're relating to the reading lesson. Hey, remember how we learned this yesterday? Okay, we're going to use that to build this word. So this is something where we're still bringing that in, but it's not something where we really need to say, okay, we're just writing it during our reading lesson as a word, and that counts as writing, right? We still have that structure of a sentence, paragraph, or writing piece. It looks like incorporating quality text for students to interact with during writing lessons. So things like reference text, model text. We're going to talk a little bit about exemplars as well. So we're doing a lot of reading during writing. And it looks like encouraging authentic output activities so that students are getting their pieces read and they're reading other students' pieces. So we're seeing how writing and reading are related. And then incorporating writing tasks that require students to apply and extend their reading comprehension skills. So instead of saying, okay, it's enough for us to take a reading piece that we're working on and have our students write a response about it, instead of that, we are building a writing piece together that brings in a writing piece or a reading passage. So what this would look like is, for example, in middle school, we have a poetry analysis piece. So we are analyzing a piece of poetry in the actual direct instruction for our writing. So this is something where we are taking that time to analyze it. We are using those reading skills, but our main focus is how do we write this analysis? Now that goes all the way down to lower grades. We always want to have reading be a part of it, our reading pieces be a part of it, but we still need to guide them in writing that. So this isn't having students just copy down letters and words. We still need to teach organized writing skills, even as young as in kindergarten when they're ready for it, and foundational skills before that, because there are so many kindergarten foundational skills for writing that we miss. And that, I think, really starts causing a problem. And then each year that problem gets a little bit worse when we're not putting this focus on writing. We're not just having students write written responses to other subjects. We're actually teaching them how to write. And then we're not just trying to finish a writing assignment to get it done and graded. I've been there, trust me. I'm just trying to get the standards done. I just need to get this writing piece done to say I did it. But we don't see growth from that. So we have to do our best to stay away from that. And we're not just allowing students to choose what they want to write about with no connections to topics or texts. So I know that there is a lot of debate about if we should give students topics or writing prompts versus just letting them pick what they want to write about within that writing type. But the more that we focus in the topic, the more reading passages we can bring in, the more discussion we can have, because we're all writing about something that's related. So yes, again, controversial, I know, but the research shows that we really need to heavily scaffold this. And as a part of that, we need to have some great reading text. And so we need to know at least a general category of what our students are going to be writing about. And we know that phonemic awareness is essential for spelling. So bringing those skills into your writing block from your reading block are another great way to integrate reading and writing. Here's an example of that. This is a student who has dyslexia. They are working on a writing piece and trying to spell the word part. And so this is us bringing in what we're doing in our reading to actually spell that word part. And let's talk about connecting through application. So when we're talking about what writing pieces we want to do, ones that involve summarizing text, analyzing characters, or synthesizing information from multiple sources are highly effective, not only as a writing piece and teaching that writing, but as bringing in that reading connection. So that will help your students learn to be good readers as well as writers. So here's how to align your classroom. First, relate the skills taught in reading to the writing tasks. So this is something that we can do with anything we're teaching in reading as it relates to writing. Include quality reference text for students to interact with during the writing time. And incorporate writing tasks that require students to apply and extend their reading comprehension skills. So we want to make sure that we are writing about reading. We are analyzing text. We are looking at reference text when we're writing informational pieces. Even when we're doing creative or personal narrative, we're relating that to some stories that we've read that are creative or personal narrative. Okay, let's take a moment to tell me how you will connect reading and writing while still providing systematic direct instruction in both. I'll give you a moment to answer that. Okay, this is the time when I get the most excited because I can see people saying that they're going to have a time for writing and bring in those elements from reading into their writing. And quality text I see in there as well. So great job. I'm really excited to hear that. Okay, element number 4 is modeling and exemplar usage, and this really connects with our direct explicit instruction, and it is an important element of that. We have to have modeling so that our students can see exactly what they need to do in their writing. It's a non-negotiable. Now, a lot of times I get pushback on this because we've had training in the past that has said, if we teach students to do it one way, it's going to be formulaic, Or if we model it, then what's going to happen is our students are going to copy us. So here is where those situations happen, where we have formulaic writing or we have students copying us. Those situations happen when we're not providing a direct instruction that includes idea generation or discussion. We want to focus on brainstorming their own ideas and having a way to generate those ideas so that our students are coming up with unique parts of that. So they might be writing about similar concepts, but their writing is going to look different. Even if we are modeling the same concept, their writing is going to look different. And that's because they're going to have different things that they're focusing on because they have different interests. Now, if we do not teach them how to generate ideas based on their interests or their current knowledge, then they're just going to copy down what we write. So that is a problem. So it is only an issue with modeling if we are not addressing that piece of the writing process where they are coming up with their own unique ideas. Now, we see a lot in kinder and first grade who do copy when you're talking about simple sentences. And that's a situation where we can really work to say, oh, how good job writing this sentence. You did a great job. You used your capital letter at the beginning. You used your punctuation at the end. But can you write the sentence one more time, but I want you to put a different idea right here and have them see if they can come up with a different sentence from that idea. So that's just a quick way to get them to put in their own ideas. And if they say, oh, I can't think of anything, okay, let's turn and talk to your partner. I want you to discuss this question and give them exact question. So the scaffolding that we're providing for our students is where we're going to really see our students thrive as well as come up with unique ideas. So we have to have that in place. We want to make sure during our model, we model a graphic organizer that we want students to use. And then we want them to do the same thing in their writing that we're doing in our writing. So what does modeling and scaffolding look like in the early grades like kinder, first, and second grade? Well, this looks a little different because in the upper grades, what we do with our students is we teach them for 10 to 15 minutes. They're actively engaging with their lesson, and then they're doing exactly what we did in our model in their own writing. However, with our little ones, we can't do that. We can't just send them off independently quite yet. Maybe a little bit in second grade. It's kind of a transition year right there, but especially kinder and first grade. So what this looks like is we're teaching a very short lesson. Let's say we're writing a simple sentence and we're starting with evidence like the word can. So from our opinion. So the teacher is modeling it, the students are helping come up with ideas, the teacher models a whole bunch of them, and then the teacher says, okay, so what I want you to do now is I want you to write, and then says exactly what they're writing and where they get the ideas from. Sometimes there's a turn and talk to discuss it. I highly recommend that, especially if you're looking for students to have unique ideas and not just copy yours. But then they're writing it down. So during that time, the teacher's coming around, doing quick check-ins, giving quick and actionable feedback so that the students can make those changes quickly. Now, this could be feedback on what they're learning that day. It could just be feedback on pencil grip, could be feedback on capitalization, punctuation. It's an opportunity to really individualize the help for those students by having the quick check-ins as you go. And then in upper elementary and middle school, this is going to look like us heavily scaffolding the lesson by providing the model and having the students do the same thing in their own writing. And we're there to support them by pulling small groups to help fill in certain gaps, or we can confer with students. We are really there to scaffold them as much as possible while also having time to help the students that are behind that grade level really improve their skills. So modeling has a great opportunity for natural differentiation. So this means that we are teaching an on-grade level lesson. Let's say we're teaching fourth grade, and we have some students who are at a kindergarten writing level, some who are at a second, some who are above grade level, some who are on grade level. We know this challenge well. Now, during this lesson, we are modeling what we want students to do. Let's say it is a multi-paragraph essay. However, we can modify the expectation. So for these students that are struggling, that are still learning to write, we're talking about having them do a sentence or a paragraph. For our above grade level students, we're wanting them to expand upon it. So maybe we're looking for extra elaboration or more research or more text-based evidence. So we're able to really modify expectations while still having the same whole group mini lesson and the same assignment. So we're not giving our students different assignments or different topics based off their level. It also allows us to front load or reteach skills. So if we're working and we're modeling something in our writing piece and our students really struggled with, let's say, transitions, this is a time where we can say, okay, it's fourth grade. Our kids are supposed to know how to transition from one paragraph to the next. I've noticed they're not doing it well. Let's insert a lesson on transitions right here. Let's say maybe we didn't have one in there because it's something the students were supposed to master already. Let's insert it this day. We'll spend a little extra time on this writing piece and we'll help our students master something that they've been struggling with. So we have that opportunity because we can plan out how we want to model. We can show them exactly how to do it in the model as a part of our writing piece. So we don't have to come up with a completely separate lesson that's unrelated to our writing piece in order to insert another skill there. And we can incorporate tools as well if we want our students to use things. When I have students who really get overwhelmed, I incorporate checklists. So I teach my lesson and then we together as a class will write a checklist of the order that I did things so that when they go back to their seat, they do that order. Of course, that's for upper grades. And we have tools for English language learners. We can incorporate those into those lessons. There's so much that we can do with our whole group mini lessons and using the modeling strategy. So here's Debbie. She shared this with me that she started using really the explicit models with her E&L students, and her students were doing pretty good. She's a very seasoned teacher. She knows what she's doing in writing, but the modeling really took it to the next level. And having a mentor text, a mentor text, which she means there is a teacher model as a text, as a mentor text, that helped her students really model their writing after it. Okay, let's talk about exemplars. Exemplars are an amazing opportunity for your students to see what their writing should look like at the end, in addition to what you are modeling. We also can use it to analyze a writing piece. So we can take a rubric, a student-friendly rubric. I feel like student-friendly rubrics were a really big movement when I first started teaching. And I love the idea of them, but I had no idea how to use them because I would give them to my kids and they had no idea what to do with them. So now thinking back, I'm thinking, well, of course they don't know. I could show them how to use a rubric, but they're looking at this text and not really understanding what this text looks like. So what this skill looks like. So the rubric can be a little overwhelming for kids. So you can break down each part of the rubric and you can go through an exemplar with your kids and you can highlight where it's shown in the text. And that way they know which elements need to be in their text in order for them to score well in the rubric. So that helps them know what they're really focusing on, especially when they're looking for good grades. We can also use it to practice providing quality feedback. So we can take different levels of exemplars and we can practice how to ask and answer questions about it. So this is a great way to really model feedback. And then we can just help them know what they need to revise to improve the quality of their finished piece. So we can look at the rubric, look at a high scoring exemplar, and then look at their writing piece and look to see what they're missing. And then that will help quite a bit during the revision phase. Because a lot of times our kids don't know what they're missing in their writing, what they can do to make it better. So that all together as a direct lesson where we're really walking them through that can be very, very helpful. Now, we do not use exemplars that are current student writing. You could use current student writing from past years and remove their name. That's totally fine. I don't use it as current students in the class because I don't want any situation where my students feel like their writing is getting picked apart. So here's how to align your classroom to element number 4. Make sure that your systematic unit is planned with a model for each part of the process. So you're showing the kids exactly what needs to be put on the paper. Make sure anything students will do in their writing is modeled, non-negotiable. We don't want to leave anything open-ended. Model using graphic organizers or other tools before they use them. So don't hand them a tool unless you have modeled how to use it. Same goes for giving and receiving peer feedback. And then use exemplars throughout the writing process. They're so powerful. Okay, take a moment in the chat to give me an example of a time someone modeled something for you that helped you learn something new. I love this question because I see so many fun things. I've seen some really crazy things too, but it really gives me a sense of what you're interested in and it's just really fun. So please, if you can think of a time, share it. I know you all have some really neat hobbies and some really neat skills, so I'm excited to hear. Okay, I see some good ones for sure. And knitting, I've been wanting to learn to knit. My hands just don't work that way. I need someone to sit down and show it to me. Um, so I'm actually proving my point, right, about modeling. It's very important. So yeah, modeling is something that even as adults, we learn better when something is shown exactly how we want to do it. We don't just say, well, you can learn how to knit, but we don't want to model it for you because we don't want you to copy our patterns. Okay, awesome. I'm loving these so much. Sorry, I get very distracted by this question because it's so interesting. Okay, let's talk about element number 5. This is consistent and timely feedback. And this is the one we struggle with the most because it's pretty much the last thing that we put in place in our writing block. So this is really, though, the secret sauce to seeing our students improve and grow as writers. But it does not need to be something that's overwhelming. It does not have to mean that you're working one-on-one, conferring with students every single day. We know with large class sizes that's very difficult. There are many ways that we can provide consistent and timely feedback. First one being quick check-ins. We talked a little bit about this already. Peer feedback is a great one, group feedback, and one-on-one conferring. This does not necessarily always need to include the teacher. That's the important part to remember. But if we are including students as providing consistent and timely feedback, we have to teach them how to do so. So quick check-ins. Of course, we're looking for implementation of the whole group skill. We're not trying to get overwhelmed by fixing every mistake. In this case, you can see that the student, that we did a quick check-in with the student, they weren't using capital letters, so we had them fix those capital letters. It takes 1 or 2 minutes. Peer and group feedback is amazing once you teach your students how to do it. So you want to directly teach them how to give and receive feedback, what to do with the feedback, how to ask questions about their writing so that the person giving them feedback isn't just reading their writing and coming up with an opinion, right? We want to ask about a certain piece of the writing or something in particular that we are struggling with on our piece that they can give us feedback about. Conferring is great. It's not necessary. I know that's another controversial thing to say. If you can confer with students, that is excellent. But in my opinion, writing conferences can be the least timely opportunities for feedback. And that's because a lot of times we have our students at the end of the writing piece or the beginning of the writing piece. And yes, we can still give feedback. But a lot of times they've passed something in their writing piece that we see and we're like, oh my gosh, we need to help with that piece. But now you're going back, days to have them redo something. So there's nothing, I don't have anything against that. I just really prefer quick check-ins when possible and working in small group so that when I am helping them with something that was from days ago, they're getting a refresher lesson on that skill before they then make that revision in their piece. So writing conferences, though, still great if you have the time and have enough time to meet with as many students as you have. This is something that just needs to be heavily focused. So you want to make sure your students are posing questions. They're coming to the conference with an agenda. They want help with a particular thing, and you're ending with an action item. So they're actually going to be doing something and they're writing just one key thing that they're going to be improving, not just there for your editing help. Now, no matter when you're giving feedback, whether it's kids working in their groups or doing peer feedback, or you're doing quick check-ins, or you're doing conferences, you want to make sure that the feedback is actionable. So for example, if you have a student who comes back to a writing conference with you and they're really having trouble with their resolution, it doesn't wrap up their story. What you could do is have them write 2 to 3 character actions or events that help explain what happens at the end. So maybe we'll talk about it first, then we'll write them down in order and say, okay, does this really resolve everything? Is this going to leave the readers feeling like everything was wrapped up? And if that's the case, then they're going to take those actions or events and they're going to go back to their seat and they're going to revise the end of their writing. So here's how to align your classroom. First, plan consistent, timely opportunities for feedback during writing time. The more informal they are and the faster you can do them, the better. Okay, that way you're not getting overwhelmed, you're not using too much time, and that allows you to be really more consistent and timely. And then make sure the students use feedback to take immediate action. Otherwise, the feedback is just not helpful. And that's why we always say one piece of feedback, because one piece of feedback is easy to take and make those changes in the writing, but writing all over their piece to fix all their grammar, that's not really going to improve upon their skills. And that's very overwhelming and honestly, very negative experience for the kids. Okay, let me know in the chat, what opportunity for feedback can you add to your writing block that doesn't take a lot of extra time and effort? Because I know this is something that you are very short on. I would love to hear what your ideas are, whether it's the quick check-ins or incorporating very scaffolded peer feedback opportunities. What really called out to you? Awesome. Yeah, I see a lot of quick check-ins. I did see a couple people talk about peer feedback. I see a question about it. I know it's really hard to explain how to set everything up in peer feedback without going over our time. I have a complete training on that. That's how in-depth it is. But you can do a lot of research and trying things in your classroom, or email me and I'll give you some advice here. But yeah, peer feedback, we really just have to have that solid lesson and then really heavy scaffolding the first few weeks that students are using it, and continuing to kind of consistently monitor that. But it's very powerful. Okay, after having all the information on those essential elements, I know you're probably overwhelmed thinking about some of the challenges that you're experiencing. So we're going to take a few minutes to go over the challenges that we have, so I can make sure that you know that you're being seen and heard, and that I understand that these challenges are here and how I can help you move away from these challenges. So let's talk about, first of all, the lack of time for systematic writing instruction. Now, this is something that for the most part we can control in our classroom, but sometimes we can't. So bringing administrators in on us saying we want to make a change and focus on writing instruction can be massive, especially if we have no room in our instruction for writing. Overwhelm and burnout is definitely a challenge. I know that many of you are experiencing that. Writing skill gaps with our students are a huge challenge, especially when we are required to teach on grade level lessons. So having a system where we can meet the needs of those students with those gaps while still teaching on grade level is very important. And then we have ELA curriculum. A lot of times that includes writing. You can see it in the quotes right there, but lacks direct systematic lessons. This has been one of my pet peeves since I first started teaching. It is just so frustrating to get an ELA curriculum and it's 99% reading. So we know reading is important, but writing is an important part of the literacy block. So we have to make sure that with that challenge, we're doing what we can to overcome that. And when we are participating in curriculum committees in the future and we're looking at programs, that we're looking at that writing piece. And then a lot of times we're seeing also technology marketed as a teaching tool that doesn't have direct instructions. So maybe something where students are typing in their writing, but there's no direct instruction. It's just, checking their writing and giving some feedback on certain things. So we are dealing with a lot of challenges, especially around things that our schools and districts are adopting. And so this is something that I feel like we need to address. Okay, thinking about your biggest challenge on that list, tell me in the chat, what can you do in your classroom to overcome these challenges? Focus on one. If there's multiple, you can as well, but really focus on the biggest challenge and how can you support your writers by making this change. For a lot of you, I know, and I already see someone had mentioned before early in this training that time was an issue, but she wanted to prioritize writing and take her ELA block and split it into a 60-30, so 60 reading, 30 writing. So that makes a huge difference as it is. So, and I see some great ideas in the chat. So thank you for that. I know we have so much to overcome. I know that you are overworked and you do not get the resources and training that you need. And I really am sorry that that's still the case for teachers. But seeing what you all are putting in the chat is making me so hopeful for your writing block and for your students. So thank you for being here again and dedicating yourself to overcoming some of these challenges to make sure that your students get the writing instruction that they need. Okay, here's how I can help. I can help you create a sustainable schedule with only 30 to 40 minutes a day. 30 to 40 minutes is plenty for writing. Most teachers are doing about 30 to 35. Would we like to have more time? Yes. But being able to have any direct explicit instruction and student application time is very helpful. So I can help coach you through where to find time in your schedule. I can help you set up your writing block so that you can make this happen. I can provide the direct systematic lessons to banish overwhelm and bring excitement back to writing. So these systems that we want to put in place from this training, this is the way that we are going to make sure that we're able to provide the direct systematic instruction while still having consistent and timely feedback, while still having time to actually teach and let students apply the writing. So this is something that I can really help with because I have spent so many years working with teachers and school districts doing so. And I can help train you how to fill in these gaps using simple modifications of your lessons and interventions. And I will give you all the materials that you need to do it. So I don't want to be adding anything extra to your plate. Your job is going to be to continue to deliver these amazing lessons and to collect data for your students to make those modifications and do interventions as you can with all the materials that I'm able to provide to you. The way that I do this is through a program called Simplify Writing. This is a curriculum that's available for kinder through 8th grade, but it is not your traditional curriculum. This is a curriculum that includes not only every single lesson you could possibly use for your direct systematic lessons, but it provides the training and flexibility and intervention materials that you need in order to meet your students where they're at. So if your students need an additional day on something, or they need to backtrack a skill, you need to reteach something, you have materials available, and the lessons are so flexible that you can do that. That way you can really tailor these lessons to your students. They're all completely editable as well. But my mission was with this curriculum to make sure that you had the tools you needed to do as little work as possible to make this happen in your classroom. But if your students need anything extra, if you needed anything extra, it would be there for you to make those changes to have that flexibility. So this includes, first of all, a 8-hour course. You do get a certificate at the end, but this trains you on how to use the curriculum. So I started giving training on writing instruction and loved it, but something I realized was teachers kept saying, I love this, but I don't have the time to make the materials for it. So I wanted to make sure that you had the training, and that training included every piece of material you needed to implement that. You want to implement peer feedback, you want lessons for that, it's available. I'll train you how to do it. I'll give you the lessons to use with your students. Do you have students who are below grade level, who are really struggling with a specific grammatical skill, or struggling as writers in general, and they just are so far behind you don't know how to help them? I give you the on grade level lessons for your class, and I give you the intervention tools you need and train you on how to use small group during that writing time to help those students to fill in those gaps. If you're struggling with grading, that's in there too. Everything you could possibly know about writing instruction is there in that class, as well as all the tools and materials you need to implement it. Of course, it includes our full writing system, so every daily lesson plan and student material for the whole year, and then the differentiation tools to help grow your varying levels of writers. So especially if you are a special education teacher, or if you're a teacher in any classroom that has students who have different learning needs and are different levels in writing, this is for you. And that, I can tell you, is pretty much 100% of teachers. There's not one classroom I've ever encountered where the kids have all been at the exact same level. All of our students have different skill gaps, and being able to address those gaps makes a huge difference in their overall writing quality. So always, 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 if you end up being a member of Simplify Writing, start with this training. This training will tell you how to do everything from building your writing block in a way where you have a short writing time, but you still have time for natural and easy differentiation. I will teach you how to support your SPED, ELL, and gifted students, and then how to make actionable feedback possible, even with that short writing block. So let's look at what the programs are that we include for our core programs. So our core lessons are going to be writing units. In kinder through 2nd grade, we have quite a bit of foundational units, especially in kindergarten. So I know a lot of people have mentioned that they have curriculum that expects their kindergartners to be writing day 1 full sentences, which we know is not developmentally appropriate. So we start off with things like pencil grip, how they should be holding their paper, how they should be holding their pencil, how they should be sitting. We provide that information and practice. Then we talk about how to illustrate. We're looking at some of these skills that are going to lead into the sentence writing eventually. So we do really heavily focus on that in kindergarten. We also have foundational units for first and second so that we can help support them become really good sentence writers before we move on to our units. We also have all of the writing types you could possibly need, broken up into very bite-sized pieces. We also bring in literature, science, social studies. All that high-quality text is incorporated in all of our grade levels. So in kinder through second grade, these are printable materials. You can print what you want to use. You can keep the teacher lesson plans on your computer. We do not do Google versions of the student materials for kinder through second grade because our students do really need to do that handwriting for the letter formation, and it's just a foundational skill that we cannot ignore. We do have information on how to have our students start using technology in second grade, but it's not something that most of our teachers do. Now we have third, fourth, and fifth grade together, and I should have said this before kinder through second, but when we sell personal licenses to teachers, which it means that you're purchasing instead of a school, we always give you 3 for the price of 1. So this allows you to be able to move grade levels pretty close to yours or have a multi-level classroom and not have to pay extra. So it's really important to me that we make sure when our teachers are paying for a personal license from their own money that we are making sure that they have what they need. So that's why I have kinder through second. It's 3 grade levels, but it's all in one program. So you're not paying for 3 programs, you're paying for 1 and you're getting the other 2 grade levels for free. So third through fifth grade, this is our upper elementary program. And of course, in third through fifth grade, our texts are getting more complex. We're bringing in more analysis. We're bringing in more text-based evidence. All of that is included in these units. And we do also have a Google version of everything, which can be uploaded into Microsoft Canvas and pretty much any e-learning system if you want to do your student organizers as digital instead of printing. And then we have a middle school program. Of course, we also have now research-based argumentative writing, which is unique to middle school, as well as still having that focus on science and social studies for informational. We have poetry analysis as well. And we have print and digital for those too. So each one of our units has simple differentiation techniques so we can help reach all your levels of writers. So let's say you're a third grade teacher and you have some students at a second grade level, you're still teaching the third grade lessons and we're providing intervention units and modification information. We're training you on how to modify the lessons for these students. That way you're not feeling like you need to teach students at different levels, completely different units. So you teach your on grade level unit, we have differentiation built in. And then we give you the exact models and materials for each systematic lesson. So you have everything you need to teach it. And then we also, of course, make sure our lessons are engaging and relevant. So each lesson will include a teacher model so that you can model this skill for your student. We provide the lesson plan with literally everything you could think of on it. We have everything from the learning goals, success criteria. We have a step-by-step. You can't see it on here because it's the back side of that page. But we also have a script in case you feel like you don't know what to say to your students. You can use it or not use it. It's up to you. It's also great for substitutes. So we've had some people go on maternity leave or paternity leave who have been raving about how their students didn't writing while they were gone because they had those scripts. So it's something that we like to include even though not every teacher uses it. And then we have any student pages that are necessary. Some of them are simple enough where the students can just copy them down, and some of them are more complex where they need to be printed or shared as a Google file if they're in the upper grades. And then we include student-friendly rubrics and exemplars for every single unit. So this allows you to have those in place and they're tied into the topic and the skills that they've been learning. So you're not having to find a rubric or an exemplar that's just a random one online that is not matched the skills you've been teaching. That was one of my biggest frustrations when I was trying to find rubrics to use in exemplars. I would remember grabbing a couple exemplars from our testing site and it was just not really what we were looking for. So we want to make sure everything's really fully aligned. When you start to DIY putting things together, alignment is really not there. So that is one of the great benefits is the training, the materials, everything that you need is completely aligned and you're not going to find anything that's out of place. And then we have a full library of intervention materials. You can use these to add extra learning for a topic. You can use them for reteach as whole group. You can use them in small group. You can use these for a variety of ways. We have things, oh my gosh, I can't even list all of them. We have so many intervention units in here. Now, these do not need to be used. Every single one of them does not need to be used, but it's here to provide you a variety of tools depending on what your kids need this year. And we have the same for grammar. So we do incorporate grammar into a lot of our units. However, we know that our students have gaps. So we provide multi-level grammar libraries so that you can backtrack to a particular grammar standard or grammar skill or concept that your students are struggling with and reteach it. Or you can use it in small group. You can do a whole variety of things with this. The best thing is we have a training module inside of the course that shows you how to take a grammar concept that's behind grade level and teach it in the concept of your current writing piece. And that way we're not teaching anything out of context, which is very important. We also have Spiral Daily Grammar Practice, which is a bonus that teachers asked us for and we provided because it is a good way to get extra grammar practice. We do see the value in that. That's something that was really heavily asked for at the beginning of the program, so we include that as well. And we have our ELL support library. This provides not only a training video that shows you how to support students with different organizers, different tasks that they can use to modify your current on grade level lesson, but we give you those tools. So we'll give you the tools and show you how to use them. So this is an excellent resource for anybody who has English language learners, especially if you just have a couple in your class and you're really trying to find ways to meet them where they're at while being able to teach your on grade level lesson. So I mentioned that we had come up with those daily grammar resources because teachers asked for it. We are not a big curriculum company. We do not feel like we ever want to be disconnected from teachers that are using our programs. So when we hear that teachers want something, we provide it. We are always here to listen to any issues that you're having in your classroom. If there's a particular student that you just can't reach, we are here to coach you through. We can talk about, you can describe what's happening. We can help support you, tell you exactly what to try with that student. We are here to talk to you at any time via email. We would love to do that. This is something that it's one of our favorite things to do. Let's just put it that way. I love doing training. I love working with teachers. And I love hearing from you via email and just helping to solve your problem. So if you reach out to us on our help desk from your dashboard, you'll get an answer within 24 hours usually, unless it's a weekend. And you'll get an answer from a teacher who's here to help you. And all of us who answer these emails are teachers who have many years of experience teaching writing in the classroom and are very passionate about doing so. And yes, we do take purchase orders and we would love to work with your school. Our pricing for schools is a little bit different, but it's still very, very affordable. We are one of the most affordable writing curriculums out there, especially because we include the training absolutely as free as part of the program. It's not anything you have to pay extra for. Another great benefit for schools is that instead of us sending a trainer to train on the curriculum, and then if you get a teacher 3 months down the line who takes over for someone else, they don't have that training, and then you're relying on the other teachers training that teacher. So that doesn't happen because we have that course available on the dashboard. And that way, even you as a teacher can go back and you can rewatch modules if you need a little extra help on something or you couldn't remember what you were supposed to do with it. So I feel like that is one of the best selling points on our program, and we've made it this way because the training is so important to make sure that you are feeling supported and able to properly implement it. Okay, so this is our pricing for personal licenses. This means for teachers who are looking to invest in their classroom and pay out of pocket. So this is not for district pricing, school pricing, using school funds or anything like that. So please keep that in mind. We have kept it really, really low for teachers with personal licenses. It is a lifetime license for teachers. We never make them pay each year because we know how much you're spending on your classroom as it is. So you can get started today just for $27 by going to simplifywriting.com/start. There's a 14-day money-back guarantee. If you get in there and you see it and you're not pleased with it in any way, you can email us and we'll refund your money. That usually doesn't happen because the training and the materials are an excellent value. So here's how it breaks down. You can either do 10 payments of $27 or you can pay and save a little bit of money for $247. This is not annual. Again, you get a lifetime license as a personal teacher. Now, this being said, we have this here to help support you to make it so that most teachers can use this in their classroom for years to come. But we do have to check quite a bit for abuse. So please make sure you're not sharing this with another teacher. You're not paying with it from a school card. These get pinged in our dashboard. And I really hate having to reach out and say, we're canceling your plan because you are sharing materials or you have purchased with a school card for your school and it's just one license. So please try to be respectful of us as well, because we put so much time and money into supporting teachers and creating these resources and updating them. So that being said, no matter if you pay for it with a payment plan or you pay a one-time payment, you get access to everything. We don't hold anything back. And then at the end of your payment plan, you own the program that you paid for. These both include the full chorus, the entire lesson library, the grammar intervention libraries, any future updates and additions to levels you own for the lifetime of the program as a personal license. You can take it to any school you work at. So I highly recommend if you're doing a personal license, you put it under your personal email address. When we do school licenses, those belong to the school. We're happy to support you and help get those covered by your school. We prefer that, but it's important to note that those are owned by the school. And then if you decide to join by the end of this training, so by the end of our Q&A, you get $250 in supplemental reading resources. Now, if you are doing a purchase order, do not worry. Just let us know that you're here in the chat right now. And then when the purchase order comes through and your account gets created, just send us an email and we'll add it to your account. Okay, but if you are looking to purchase a personal license, you are going to get double the worth of what you pay because you're getting these supplemental reading resources. So in the lower elementary, this is actually a growing library. We just started the bonuses for this program. We have already uploaded some bulletin boards, by heart word activities, phoneme cards, centers, and so much more. So these are just great supplementals to what you're currently doing, and you'll want to log into this bonus over the year because you're going to see a lot of new things added each time. Now for upper elementary program, we have a great bonus. It is more than $250 worth of resources. We have things like an entire year of literacy centers. We have reading comprehension assessments. We have flip books. We have interactive notebooks, read aloud units for every standard for upper elementary. So it's quite a bit of reading content in there to supplement. Now, again, this is not a full reading program. These are purely supplemental, but a lot of these tools are awesome and will save you a lot of money if you are one who purchases a lot of things on TPT for your reading block. And then for middle school, we have things like our ELA word wall. We have activity pages to go with it. We have reading comprehension assessments. We have standard-based units for a literature and informational texts. Over $250 worth of resources in here already. So if you paid just $27 today on the payment plan, you'd be able to start implementing the best practices from this training without extra time or effort. So here is the feedback that we've received from teachers. This is our most recent feedback. 98.2% of teachers have seen student growth while using the program. 94.3% report their students find it very engaging. And 95.9% of Simplify Writing teachers feel confident in teaching and planning effective writing lessons. So here's some feedback. This is Susanna, first grade teacher. Her students are at all different levels, which again, I know you can relate to. And so she's started using Simplify Writing. She's tried so many other curriculums before, but they haven't met the needs because they miss that flexibility with the intervention materials, with the training to make modifications. All of these things are so essential to providing quality writing instruction, and so many curriculums miss the mark on it. This is Catherine. She has all second language learners, so her students do struggle with writing. She noticed that after she started using this program, her students have been able to do more with any other writing curriculum that the district has purchased. So, and Catherine is one who did a personal license, put her own money towards the program at the beginning of it. So she's been with us for a while. And this is Megan. She's a middle school special education teacher. We always recommend our special education teachers by the grade levels of the students they teach, because we want to make sure that we don't have lessons that the topics are too baby, the formatting's too baby for them. We want to respect these students. But because we include the intervention and grammar tools and support, they're able to make those modifications so that these students can tackle these tasks. So she's given us this feedback about how our students don't groan for writing instruction any longer, which is great. They've come up with some great ideas. They're proud of their pieces, and she says she's proud of them too, which really made my day. So we get a lot of feedback online through email every single day from teachers telling us how our curriculum has made a change in their classroom. This is what keeps us going. So if you do decide to invest in a personal license, please do send us feedback. Let us know how it's going. This is what makes us continue to be updating the lessons, adding new materials, and making sure that we're supporting our teachers, because we're seeing these results. Okay, so I'm going to take some questions. So if you have a question, please drop it in the chat. If you're looking for the free resources, the link is in the blue box. It's not clickable, so just screenshot it, and then you can navigate to that link at the end of the training. And then if you're looking to join, the link is in the red box. Same thing, not clickable. Just screenshot it, but make sure, actually, don't just screenshot it. Go to simplifywriting.com/start, because you want to get your live training bonus for the reading resources. So I know I see a lot of questions already. If I miss your question, please email me afterwards. My email is help@simplifywriting.com. I know with so many people online right now that I'm going to miss questions, and I apologize. So I'm going to try to answer the ones that I've seen most commonly. If you do have one from earlier in the session, please do drop it back in there. But I'll try to address those questions first. And then we're already a little bit over our time, so I am going to do my best to answer those questions, and then please email me right after. Usually after the trainings, I stay online for a bit, so hopefully I can get you a quick response. But this one especially, I'm a little bit tired, so it might be a little bit of time. But I will make sure that I get your question answered within 24 hours. Okay, so I saw a couple questions about purchase orders. So yes, if you get a purchase order and you're on the training, you can still get the reading bonuses. We never want to hold those back from teachers. Just let us know in the chat that you're here. I mean, we know you're here. We see you're interested. And then when you get your license added after your purchase order comes through, remind us through email, and we'll look you up and we'll add the bonuses, okay? Okay, I see another person asking about purchase orders and if we work with schools for like a school-wide license. So I don't want to go too much into licensing, but if you email us at help@simplifywriting.com, we can give you a quote. Our licenses are very, very affordable. They're per teacher, but they're a really great price, and they include absolutely everything. So please connect with us. We are really happy if you're a teacher and you're looking for us to connect with your administrator. We're happy to do so. We do one-on-one meetings with administrators, with teams. We've participated in curriculum committees before, so we're here to help with that process. And I see someone mentioning that they're already a member of Simplify Writing, and if they can get the reading bonuses. So yes, if you're already a member, you've purchased before, and you're just seeing this training now, please email us. We will add them to your account. You are here. You're already a member. You obviously can't don't want to purchase again. So please let us know. And then I saw a couple of questions about adding grade levels. So I know we try to cover as much as possible with the K2, 3, 5, and 6, 8 bands. But for personal licenses, if you need an additional grade level, we have those very heavily discounted. So please do not purchase kinder through 2nd grade and then go back out and come back to this link and then purchase 3rd through 5th grade, okay? At checkout, you'll likely see the opportunity to purchase the 2nd grade band at a huge discount. Just don't purchase 2 for $250, okay? We never do that. If you ever need additional grade levels because you switch grades and it's a drastic switch, we are here. We have a very good price for you. We don't want to be charging $250 for every program that you're doing. So we have a good discount. Just email us. Okay, I have a couple of questions about, can this be used with certain curriculum? And I'm not going to name the curriculum. There's a couple different ones. So we can be used with any ELA curriculum. As far as writing curriculum goes, if you have a specific writing curriculum, we're not meant to be a supplemental to that writing program. We're meant to be the writing program. So I know that can be a challenge for some of you who are required to use a district writing program, but we've had some teachers in the past who have had that requirement and they've reached out to the administrators and said, hey, I want to try something a little different in my classroom, especially if it's self-funded. A lot of times administrators are like, okay, well, let's test it out and see how it goes. We've had some instances where teachers have gone ahead and used our program anyway without asking. I never recommend that because I don't want you to be told you can't use something and then not be able to use it and you paid for it. But we have had a couple instances of teachers who have done that and their administrators have been impressed, and we've ended up actually doing school-wide licenses. So it's nice when that works out, but I don't want you to do anything that's going to get you in trouble. Now, if you feel like your administrator is open to new ideas, especially because now a lot of our school leaders are really looking for programs that meet the science of reading or just the research in general, they're evidence-based, and they know that they've had issues in the past with certain writing curriculum. A lot of them are very open to hearing more about it. So we're very happy to meet with them. You can send us an email. We have a letter that you can copy and paste a template that explains the curriculum, explains the evidence, and then invites them to meet with us. And it's not really a sales call or anything like that. It's us sharing the evidence and what should be in place. We have a training as well for administrators that goes over what the evidence is and how to evaluate ELA curriculum. Sometimes our administrators evaluate the ELA curriculum they have and the writing piece is strong, but a lot of times they evaluate it and it's not. So then we add our program as the writing portion, or or even just going through curriculum committee and they're looking at ELA programs, and we're just happy to share what needs to be a part of them. Even if it's not us, we want our students to have quality writing instruction. So we're here to help. Just let us know. Okay, I want to address a lot of people who are asking about which program to use based on levels of your students. So we always recommend that you use the on grade level lessons. Now, if you're a high school teacher, obviously we don't have a high school program. We have a lot who use our middle school program. We have a lot that use 7th or 8th grade. Now, if you're, let's say, a middle school special education teacher and you're thinking, my kids are at a kindergarten, first, second grade level, please do not purchase kinder through 2nd grade. And here's why. Those lessons are formatted in a way where those kids are going to recognize that they are for little kids. So you need to purchase your levels, and then we have the training and materials in there so that you can work on base skills. So you can work on those fundamentals with them still. You're going to really heavily rely on our intervention library, our grammar library, and if you have English language learners, the modification library for that. So if you are a special education teacher, you're going to want the band that you work with. Now, if you work with all elementary, then you're going to want to purchase kinder through 2nd, and then at checkout, it'll ask you to add 3rd through 5th. So get that. If you're a middle school SPED teacher, then get middle school. I know it's really tempting. We want the level that our students are at, but because our curriculum is made to meet the varying levels of our students, it is meant to be used with that grade level. I hope that makes sense. I know it's a little confusing, but we have differentiation tools and everything built in so that the grade levels you purchase can be used for those students no matter where their gaps are, no matter what their writing level is. It's very important that you take the training to learn how to do that, to learn how to use the intervention libraries, and to learn how to use the core units as well. Oh, I love when we have a school that adopts it and includes their special education teachers, because then we have our teachers working on that core lesson, and our special education teachers know that core lesson. They're able to support that core lesson, but they're able to bring those intervention materials to do more small group. So that's always really great setup, is when we have everyone in the school involved. But if it is just you as a special education teacher, purchase the grade level band that your students are and take the training. It's so important to know how to modify the lessons and how to do the small group interventions. Okay, I see a few other questions about payment plans and annual renewals, things like that. Just a reminder, first of all, there is a 14-day money-back guarantee. If you do not feel like it's a good fit, you have 14 days. Get in there, take the course, view the materials. Don't get in there and open a couple materials, get overwhelmed, and leave. Take the course. You're going to see how every single piece of this research that we've talked about, every element is incorporated in how it's laid out to make it simple for you, okay? I don't want this to be something that's overwhelming. So everyone needs to take the course. I know it's hard to dedicate 8 hours to it, but it is less than 8 hours. 8 hours includes planning your first unit. So you probably have about 5 hours of videos depending on the grade level. So definitely get in there and take that, because this is what's going to set you up for success and make it super easy for you to use the materials. But as far as the payment plans go, remember, this is not an annual renewal for personal licenses. Use your personal email. You get to take this with you no matter what school you go to. You own it. When we have school purchase orders, that is on an annual renewal because we are training new teachers and we are having to move over the licenses and onboard. And so it's a big process. We have new teachers taking the course. And so we always do that for schools, but it's still a very affordable price compared to other curriculum. So just keep in mind that if you're purchasing a personal license, you are getting the program. You do not have to purchase it every year. Okay, let's see if we have any other questions. I feel like I've answered a lot that I've seen repeatedly, but I know there are a few that I've missed. So I'm going to end it because I do feel like we're going a little late, but please email me at help@simplifywriting.com if I missed your question. If you have not purchased the program and you're wanting to get these bonuses, I'm going to leave them on for probably another 10 minutes. So go to simplifywriting.com/start and check out the next 10 minutes and you'll get the bonus $250 in reading resources on top of your writing resources. And you get to keep those for the lifetime of the program as well. Okay, I look forward to working with so many of you. I know I've already seen a couple of you sign up. I'm really excited about that. I'm here via email. Please contact me if you have any questions, if you need any help at all. I am here whether or not you joined. I'm just so honored that you have joined me for this training and hope that I can really help you put these research-based practices into place in your classroom so that you can feel more confident and supported in writing instruction so that your students can grow as writers and fill in those learning gaps. All right, thank you so much. Please reach out if you have any questions, and I'll keep that bonus up for about 10 more minutes. So make sure you go to this link, simplifywriting.com/start. Do not go to any other link if you want the bonus. That's the one that I'm going to leave it up on for a few more minutes. All right, thank you so much. Have a great one.